mind for the young. Since she chose to regard him as a hopeless liar, but an economical and self-contained one, never throwing away the least unnecessary fib and never hesitating at the blackest, were it only plausible, that might make his life a little easier. The treatment taught him at least the power of living alone, a power that was of service to him when he went to a public school and the boys laughed at his clothes, which were poor in quality and much mended. In the holidays he returned to the teachings of Mrs. Jennett, and, that the chain of discipline might not be weakened by association with the world, was generally beaten, on one account or another, before he had been 12 hours under her roof. The autumn of 1 year brought him a companion in bondage, a long-haired, grey-eyed little atom, as self-contained as himself, who moved about the house silently, and for the first few weeks spoke only to the goat that was her chiefest friend on earth and lived in the back garden. Mrs. Jennett objected to the goat to the grounds that he was unchristian, which he certainly was. She chose her words very deliberately.
Then I shall write to my lawyers' people and tell them that you are a very bad woman. A moment is mine, mine.
Mrs. Jennett made a movement to the hall where certain umbrellas and canes stood in a rack. The atom understood as clearly as Dick what this meant.
I have been beaten before. I have been beaten worse than you can ever beat me. If you beat me, I shall write to my lawyer peoples and tell them that you do not give me enough to eat. I'm not afraid of you.
Mrs. Jennett did not go into the hall, and the atom, after a pause to assure herself that all danger of war was past, went out to weep bitterly on her Moma's neck. Dick learned to know her as Maisie, and at first mistrusted her profoundly, for he feared that she might interfere with his small liberty of action left to him. She did not, however, and she volunteered no friendliness until Dick had taken the first steps. Long before the holidays were over, the stress of punishment shared in common drove the children together, if it were only to play into each other's hands as they prepared lies for Mrs. Jennett's use. Dick returned to school while Maisie nodded her head bravely.
Now I shall be all alone to take care of myself. I can do it. You promised to send Moma a grass collar. Send it soon.
A week later, she asked for that collar by return of post, and was not pleased when she learned that it took time to make. When at last Dick forwarded the gift, she forgot to thank him for it. Many holidays had come and gone since that day, and Dick had grown into a lanky hobbledehoy more than ever conscious of his bad clothes. Not for a moment had Mrs. Jennett relaxed her tender care of him, but the average canings of a public school — Dick fell under punishment about 3 times a month — filled him with contempt for her powers. He explained to Maisie, who urged rebellion,
"She doesn't hurt. And she is kinder to you after she has whacked me."
Dick shambled through the days unkempt in body and savage in soul, as the smaller boys of the school learned to know, for when the spirit moved him, he would hit them, cunningly and with science. The same spirit made him more than once try to tease Maisie, but the girl refused to be made unhappy.
Oh, we are both miserable as it is. What is the use of trying to make things worse? Let's find things to do and forget things.
The pistol was the outcome of that search. It could only be used on the muddiest foreshore of the beach, far away from the bathing machines and pierheads, below the grassy slopes of Fort Keeling. The tide ran out nearly 2 miles on that coast, and the many-coloured mud banks, touched by the sun, sent up a lamentable smell of dead weed. It was late in the afternoon when Dick and Maisie arrived on their ground, Moma trotting patiently behind them. Maisie sniffed the air.
I wonder what makes the sea so smelly. I don't like it.
You never like anything that isn't made just for you. Give me the cartridges, and I'll try first shot. How far does one of these little revolvers carry?
Oh, 1/2 mile. At least it makes an awful noise. Be careful with the cartridges. I don't like those jagged stick-up things on the rim. Dick, do be careful.
All right. I know how to load. I'll fire at the breakwater out there.
He fired, and Amoma ran away, bleating. The bullet threw up a spurt of mud to the right of the wooden-wreathed piles.
Throws high and to the right. You try, Maisie. Mind, it's loaded all round.
Maisie took the pistol and stepped delicately to the verge of the mud, her hand firmly closed on the butt, her mouth and left eye screwed up. Dick sat down on a tuft of bank and laughed. Amoma returned very cautiously. He was accustomed to strange experiences in his afternoon walks, and finding the cartridge box unguarded, made investigations with his nose. Maisie fired, but couldn't see where the bullet went. She shaded her eyes and looked out across the sailless sea.
I think it hit the post.
I know it has gone out to the Marazion bell buoy. Fire low and to the left, then perhaps you'll get it. Oh, look at Amoma. He's eating the cartridges.
Maisie turned, the revolver in her hand, just in time to see Amoma scampering away from the pebbles Dick threw after him. Nothing is sacred to a billy goat. Being well fed and the adored of his mistress, Amoma had naturally swallowed 2 loaded pin-fire cartridges. Maisie hurried up to assure herself that Dick had not miscounted the tale.
Yes, he's eaten 2.
Horrid little beast. Then they'll joggle about inside him and blow up. And serve him right. Oh, Dick, have I killed you?
Revolvers are tricky things for young hands to deal with. Maisie could not explain how it had happened, but a veil of reeking smoke separated her from Dick, and she was quite certain that the pistol had gone off in his face. Then she heard him sputter and dropped on her knees beside him, crying,
Dick, you aren't hurt, are you? I didn't mean it.
Coming out of the smoke, Dick wiped his cheek.
Of course you didn't, but you nearly blinded me. That powder stuff stings awfully.
A neat little splash of grey lead on a stone showed where the bullet had gone. Maisie began to whimper. Dick jumped to his feet and shook himself.
Don't. I'm not a bit hurt.
No, but I might have killed you.
Maisie protested, the corners of her mouth drooping.
What should I have done then?
Gone home and told Mrs. Jennett.
Dick grinned at the thought, then softened.
Please don't worry about it. Besides, we're wasting time. We've got to get back to tea. I'll take the revolver for a bit.
Maisie would have wept on the least encouragement, but Dick's indifference, albeit his hand was shaking as he picked up the pistol, restrained her. She lay panting on the beach while Dick methodically bombarded the breakwater. He exclaimed as a lock of weed flew from the wood.
Got it at last.
Oh, let me try. I'm all right now.
They fired in turns till the rickety little revolver nearly shook itself to pieces, and Amoma, the outcast, because he might blow up at any moment, browsed in the background and wondered why stones were thrown at him. Then they found a balk of timber floating in a pool which was commanded by the seaward slope of Fort Keeling, and they sat down together before this new target. The now thoroughly fouled revolver kicked wildly in his hand.
Next holidays, we'll get another pistol. Central fire. That will carry further.
There won't be any next holidays for me. I'm going away.
Where to?
I don't know. My lawyers have written to Mrs. Jennett, and I've got to be educated somewhere. In France, perhaps. I don't know where. But I shall be glad to go away.
I shan't like it a bit. I suppose I shall be left. Look here, Maisie. Is it really true you're going?